actually, at this point in time when I read this book, did not read that many rom-coms because I was under a misconception that all of them would be spicy or inappropriate, and I wasn't really feeling those types of books for my reading journey. We are back for another Christian review of regular books, and today we are discussing Funny Story by Emily Henry. If you've never seen one of these videos before, here's what we're gonna do. First, I do my regular review, my own personal opinion, star rating, what I thought, etc. But then we get into my Christian review, and that's where I go over the basic pieces of a book that may or may not have a fellow believer or anyone wanting to read it. I do give a lot more information and any caveats at the video that's pinned at the top of the playlist, and there should be a tag here somewhere where you can click on over. However, if you're still here, I also just want to remind you to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you can stay up to date on all of my Christian reviews of regular books, plus me and my mom's podcast, The Journey We Share. Let's go ahead and get into my regular review. Funny Story by Emily Henry was the first Emily Henry book that I picked up. Actually, at this point in time when I read this book, did not read that many rom-coms because I was under a misconception that all of them would be spicy or inappropriate, and I wasn't really feeling those types of books for my reading journey. Since then, I have now read many rom-com books, and I feel like I have a much better concept of the storyline, of the writing styles, of the plot lines, and how they tend to go. And so I have a very different lens going into this Christian review than I did the first time I did it. I loved this book for what it was. I think that it was a great kind of forced proximity. You know, technically it would be considered enemies to lovers, but I think that is probably one of the worst trope titles ever because almost always they're like rivals to lovers or misunderstanding to lovers, you know what I mean? It's just one of those. And I don't mind that storyline at all. I love kind of reading it. The characters in this book, both the male main character and the female main character, kept me engaged, and they were very funny, and I really enjoyed a lot of what this story had to say. However, it was spicy for me, and now looking at a lot of other Emily Henry books that I've read, spicy for Emily Henry. So although I enjoyed it, I ultimately rated it 4 stars. If you're wanting to stay up to date on everything that I'm reading and rating, you can do so by following me on Goodreads. I'm also on Instagram, TikTok, and I do have my own YouTube channel. So if you're wanting to follow me in any or all of those places, you can check the description box down below. But now let's go ahead and get into my Christian review. The first category is smut or spice. And as I mentioned before, there is spice. Now, I wouldn't say it's smutty, I'd say it's spicy. And it's not just the scenes themselves that are descriptive, but the story is a slow burn, and there's a lot of thought processes that are spicy in nature. And again, having now read many rom-coms, I've seen that that doesn't always have to be the case, that there can be interest or slow burn without the spice aspect of that slow burn. So I think where I had the hardest time was just the amount of descriptions, which are not easily avoidable, and it's not something that you could just skip past. The actual spicy scenes, which a few of them were multiple pages long, even though they were long or descriptive, they were easy to skip past and not miss the plot. However, the slow burn is a little bit trickier when they're describing things in detail within that thought process before it even turns into anything actually happening. The second category is explicit language. And again, there was a fair bit of explicit language. Having read more Emily Henry books, I've learned that that's not always true. This just seemed to be a book where she definitely kind of pushed the envelope in these categories, but it's there. So if that's something that's not for you, this is not the book for you. I do think this book is probably appropriate for ages 17 and up. Again, I'm going based off of how much was in there and the slow burn itself. I want to remind you that we don't want to end the conversation here. Leave me a comment down below and let me know if you've read other Emily Henry books or even this book and what your thoughts were. Or you can send us an email at hello@trokia.org. I cannot wait to see you on the next one.